Good afternoon. I'm Harold Holzer. I'm the director of Roosevelt House, the one-time home of Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt, as I'm sure many of you know. And thanks to the Borough President, I'm also the Borough Historian of Manhattan. So I'm kind of wearing both hats to welcome you all, not only because this event is being hosted by Brad Hoylman-Sigal, but also because it's been organized by our beloved longtime former Hunter colleague, Misha Smith, the Deputy Borough President. So we're particularly proud that in these last days, I guess, of Women's History Month, we have an exhibit upstairs of the great women of Hunter College. I hope you've had a chance to look at it, or will look when you go up for the reception. It's quite wonderful, and it fits in perfectly with one thing I wanted to talk to you about very briefly. One of the people who lived here for 25 years obviously was Eleanor Roosevelt, and you know her, of course, as the First Lady of New York, the country, and the world, and also a great humanitarian, human rights activist. But she deserves recognition as well as a pioneering businesswoman. I know that is not part of what is best known about Eleanor. Think about this. She wrote a 6-day-a-week newspaper column for more than 25 years, syndicated at its peak in 90 newspapers around the country. She wrote books, so she was a one-woman media empire, aside from her other duties, traveling and being the eyes and ears of her husband. She appeared on commercial radio as a paid host in 2 radio series at the peak of network radio, both sponsored by soap companies, and she was criticized for everything by the right, but she was really criticized for having her own radio show and taking money because it was part of her private income. There's more. She founded and helped run a school called the Todd Hunter School for Girls. And last but not least, if you don't think any of those are really commercial enterprises, she created and for 10 years helped manage a small manufacturing business in the Hudson Valley. It was called Valkill Industries, and it employed apple orchard workers in their off seasons, primarily so they would have work, but they manufactured and marketed really ugly colonial-style furniture. I like antiques, but this stuff was really awful. But she ran it for 10 years. She only folded it because her duties as First Lady became so burdensome. So from 1928 to 1938, she was a genuine women business owner in New York. So in that spirit, we're proud to keep that legacy alive for you visitors today. And with that, I want to introduce someone who follows in the Roosevelt legacy as a great leader of New York, our Borough President, Brad Hoylman-Sigal.
Thank you very much, Brad Hoylman-Sigal. What an honor to be here at Roosevelt House, and thank you, Harold, for your commitment to service, including now as our borough historian. Harold has written 55 books on Abraham Lincoln, and so we are working now to see how we can highlight Lincoln's role, not just in American history, but in Manhattan history. And today I had the honor, Harold, of speaking at the installation of the new president of Cooper Union in the Great Hall, so where Abraham Lincoln spoke for how many hours? 90 minutes. 1.5 hours. But it's an honor to be here with Misha Smith, our Deputy Borough President, and my whole team, in particular Kiara Royer, let's give her a round of applause for putting this event together. When we thought about this convening, which is something that the Borough President's Office does to convene Manhattanites and to recognize people in service, we thought, well, women and entrepreneurship, that should be our focus, because we know that women in the business world, just like women in government and in public service, women everywhere, face enormous challenges, mainly because of men. But sad but true. But also the structure of business and the lack of mentorship and connections with other women business owners, I think puts business ownership by women at a severe disadvantage. So with that in mind, actually, we're having a little after party after this event, and you're welcome to stick around and to network with our honorees and our team, and that is going to be due to the work of Marisa Siphon and Honey Brains, which is providing some of the light bites. So thank you to them. We're going to be hearing from our panelists today, and Misha's going to discuss their bios more, but let me just name them if they could come forward. Jackie Aleman, who's president and CEO of JCA and Associates, a consulting firm specializing in architectural coordination, expediting, and construction services for small business, property owners, and contractors across the city. She's the president of the Chamber of Commerce of Washington Heights and Inwood and the board chair of both the East Harlem Council for Human Services and the Borican Neighborhood Health Center. Please also meet Katrina Parris, who is the founder and owner of NiLu Gift Store, which offers a curated selection of gifts, home decor, and accessories that reflect the vibrancy of Harlem and the African diaspora. Before opening NiLu, she founded Katrina Parris Flowers in 2002, which specializes in bespoke floral arrangements for over a decade. The third panelist is Christina Seid, thank you. Christina Seid is the second generation owner of the iconic Chinatown ice cream factory, which she took over from her father and hopes to one day pass on to her daughters. In addition to churning what's been voted New York's best ice cream, Christina is extremely involved in her community and has volunteered for Chinatown Youth Initiatives, Asian Women in Business, and New York Cares. And our final panelist is Leigh Altshuler, the owner of Sweet Pickle Books on the Lower East Side. Since opening in 2020, New Yorkers and tourists alike have flocked to Orchard Street to trade used books for pickles at Leigh's store. Leigh and Sweet Pickle are expanding to a new location right next door. The expansion, called Rare, Fine, and Fancy, will sell rare books, stationery, and ephemera. Maybe some of Harold's books will be there. 55 of them. We are waiting to see whether there will be a pickle presence at Rare, Fine, and Fancy. There will be. Okay, you heard it here first. So these amazing women, including Misha Smith, have so much to share. So I'm going to get out of the way, as most men should, and turn it over to Deputy Borough President Misha Smith.
Thank you, Brad. And thank you all for joining us today. We're here together as women, celebrating women, and especially celebrating women that are running small businesses, which is what keeps New York not only going, but keep it special, keeps it interesting, and keeps it being the place that people flock from all over the world to visit. So I'm super happy to be joined by everyone up here. And just so that you all know a little bit more about them and their journey, why don't we just start with this? Pitch us your business and what inspired you to start it. Who wants to start? Jackie, you want to start?
Well, my name is Jackie Aleman. I am the founder of JCA and Associates. It's an expediting construction consulting company that services developers, homeowners, apartment owners, you name it. We service it within the 5 boroughs. What helped me and what made me start the company is because I saw the hardship in underserved neighborhoods that small business owners were going through. Originally, my career started as a property manager, and I interacted with a lot of our commercial tenants, and they would talk to me and say, it is so expensive to run a business in New York City. So that got me thinking and say, well, I think I can bridge the gap. and provide some sort of education, at the same time help them without the heavy cost of other firms. And that's what we've done for the past 15 years.
Amazing. Katrina?
Good afternoon. I'm Katrina Parris from NiLu Gift Store located in Harlem. We are a gift, lifestyle, and home store that features makers from Harlem and beyond, black and brown makers. It started out, we had a floral business for 15 years prior to that, and felt that there needed to be a platform in our community that reflected some of the goods and products that I was seeing but didn't really have a platform for it. So we opened our doors in 2015. We're located in Central Harlem. It's the place that you go to get all the things you didn't know you needed for yourself or for your friend, from coffee table books to candles to jewelry to little tchotchke things that are items that make you feel good to give or to keep yourself. I would say that I live in the community, so we're very community oriented. We're about community, craft, and culture. And I'm very proud to say that it's named after my two sons, Nigel and Luke. And it has been a great example of raising a family and being able to show them, what it means to be part of community in a very meaningful way.
Hi, I'm Christina. I want to say I came up with the idea myself, but our business is almost 50 years old, so it's older than me. My father, Philip, when you think about the late 70s, that's when you think about all the big ice cream brands. When you think about Haagen-Dazs, Ben & Jerry's, that's really like the evolution of ice cream. Big ice cream brands. So originally, my father had started a cafe in the same location that the ice cream factory is now, and it was kind of before its time when you think about like a Panera or a Cozy type of thing with a liquor license, but it quickly went out of business. So he changed the business for something more for the neighborhood. The Chinese palate is very different. Often when you go to see Asian desserts, you'll see flavors like green tea and lychee, and they're not too much on the chocolate palate to say, no, that's too sweet. You hear a lot of grandmas say that, but things have changed. Now I see a lot of grandmas order Rocky Road. But in the late 70s, Haagen-Dazs claims that they were the first to create cookies and cream. So you could imagine how novel flavors like lychee, red bean, mango, and green tea were. And this is before food TV. This is before Lipton and Arizona has claimed green tea. People didn't know when I was a kid, they would say, what's green tea? What is a mango? And it's like absurd to hear that now, but my father was really before his time in creation of food. So I'm very proud to like continue that legacy.
My name's Leigh. I'm the owner of Sweet Pickle Books, and I started my business out of necessity. I lost my job during the 2020 COVID pandemic, and I had worked in bookstores, and I was working in theater and nightlife, and I'd always worked in public places. I always wanted to open my own bookshop. Everyone who works at the Strand wants to open their own bookshop. And so I was thinking, and I live in the Lower East Side, and I was thinking, I was going on walks, and I was seeing for rent signs in the window, and I was like, well, why don't I just call and just see? And I didn't tell anyone, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna, if the rent is this, I'll go to the next step. I'll go to the next step. So it kept working, and I kept going to the next step, and then I was like, I guess I have to open this business. So I decided I was going to open a used bookshop, and I knew I wanted to do books and something, and I wanted to pay homage to the neighborhood and the Lower East Side's pickling history. So I had told my family, my friends, I'm going to open a used bookstore, and everyone was like, what? A used bookstore in the middle of the pandemic? Like, Leigh, are you okay? I was like, no, trust me, it's going to be so good. Then I'm like, oh, also we're going to sell pickles. And they're like, my parents are calling me, begging me, like, please, like, this is the worst idea. Like, this is horrible. Just like, please don't do it. My dad calculated like the exact amount of money I would lose, like with the rent, with this, with that. He was like, and he calls me and he says, okay, it's going to be, it may as well have been $1 bazillion, because that's what it sounded like to me. And he said, is that worth it to you? And I was like, yes. absolutely, to try. So I decided to open my store, and when we first opened, it was we had books and pickles, used books, and I was buying used books like a traditional used bookstore. You know, people come in, they bring their books to the desk, and we offer them money or store credit. But so many people were either moving or needing to get rid of books that had been in their place for a long time. It was a really interesting place, especially for older New Yorkers, and a lot of people were excited that something new was opening in the neighborhood. So people were donating me books, and I was giving them a jar of pickles as a thank you. So as word spread, people came in and they would bring their books, and I would offer them money or store credit, and they said, "Oh, I thought I got a jar of pickles." And I was like, "What? That's what you don't want the money?" They're like, "No, could I just have the jar of pickles?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I opened with 360 jars of pickles, and I thought that would kind of last me forever. And we've gone through like more than 100,000 jars now. Yeah, and now that's primarily our business model. You come in on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you bring books, you get a jar of pickles. You can also buy pickles anytime and donate books anytime, but on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, that's how it is, and it's spiraled into something amazing.
Oh my gosh, these stories are amazing, aren't they? But I think one of the things that we really wanted to highlight today is that these successful businesses did not get here without some issues, right? It wasn't always just a straight path forward. Can you talk a little bit about what were some of those unexpected issues that popped up? Some of those things that your dad might not have even told you on the call, but then ended up popping up. Or are they New York specific issues that you think popped up that became issues that you all had to overcome?
I can tell you that, first of all, I started my business in my living room. I left a six-figure job. My mother thought I was insane. But nonetheless, here we are. And I was a little crazy because what I wanted was freedom. That's what I wanted. I realized, I don't want somebody telling me what to do all the time. I want to learn, and I want to spend time doing the things that I love. And the primary reason why I started my business is because I wanted to give back to my community. That drove me. And I had to find a way to do so and to do all the things for myself. So I did that. Um, I encounter a lot of adversities. Working in the city is very tough. We were talking about this before. We sat up here, and is that for licensing violations, even if you have a storefront, I was telling them now with these bike lanes and reduced parking, and now the buses are taking photos of your license plate. All these things that you have to factor into your budget, because you're going to be a victim eventually. You know, if you want to create an LLC and you don't know how to get that information, you don't know where to fill out those applications, you're dead on the waters. For example, for someone that owns a restaurant, restaurants, I think, have to deal with at least 50% of the agencies in New York City. Department of Health, Department of Building, Fire Department, oh my God. And the list goes on and on. It's almost like don't create your own business kind of thing. It's not, I don't think it's an environment that is friendly for you to be an entrepreneur.
I just want to say, doing any kind of business in New York City is a challenge because New Yorkers are, when they love you, and when they don't, they don't. And being in a small community, it's almost as if you have to prove yourself. And we've been open for 10 years. We had the benefit of having had another business before that. So people were kind of familiar with who we were, but only if they had utilized our services. So my business is right down the street from where I live. So the separation between my world is very small. So it took a while for people, first of all, a lot of people thought that instead of having a gift store, there should have been a laundromat. And they were, they were very open about expressing that. So it took a while to kind of, get people, people will peer through the window, they'll look, they'll make assumptions. And, then when they come in, it's kind of like, you have to prove yourself. And so it took probably a good, I'd say 3 to 4 years for us to become part of people's habits. You know, they say that you have to assume that no one will come through the door for the first year, and you have to still survive and maintain yourself. And so it took a while. Even being someone of the community, one of the things that I purposely did was the location that we're actually in is where my floral business was prior to opening up the gift shop. And I was very adamant about I did not want anyone to know that it was going to be me that was opening up the gift store, because there would have been certain expectations. There would have, you know, I just really wanted to make it to be a completely different experience. So people were skeptical about, you know, who opened up this gift store. You know, who were they? Who were these outsiders that came into their community and opened up a gift store? And so when they find out that, oh, okay, it's the flower lady, she opened up the gift store. And, you know, it took some time. People would come in, they would say, well, how, you know, it's too expensive, or there was always criticism of one thing or another. And so, you know, after a while, I think that what breeds, you know, kind of acceptance is being consistent. And so we were consistent. We reached out to community, and our premise was to support small makers. So when the word got out, makers would come into the store and say, I sell, or I make such and such. I make candles. I do this. And so, you know, you have to be a little discerning to kind of decide, you know, the difference between, you know, what's a hobby and what's an actual viable product and business that you have. I need to know that if I bought this from you, you know, this week, are you going to be in business a month from now? And so, you know, on our part, it took a lot of educating a lot of makers. And I found that over time, people talked and we became respected because we were honest, but also we were helpful, because we wanted to have your product to be sold in our store. You know, we wanted you to be able to provide for our community, but in a more meaningful way. And so over time, not only did they become regular customers, but they also became, you know, friends. You know, they're in the 10 years that we've opened. I shared with some of the panelists, I'm going fast forward, but in 2024, after 9 years of business, we had to change our business model from a typical retail wholesale business, whereas a retail you have to pay up front for all of your product, to a consignment model. And so I think we have been always cognizant of, you know, the changing dynamics, you know, especially in retail. And so through that change, you know, community has really supported us, and we created a sense of community that we didn't even know that we did. So my long-winded way of saying that doing businesses in New York is, there's the business at hand and then there's the business of people. And I think that New Yorkers know authenticity and they know the fakes. And, you know, when they see that you're really someone of the community, and they support you. And it's something that I don't think that you can be taught. That you have to live it, you have to experience it.
That was beautiful. And I love that you serve as an incubator for other businesses. That's amazing. And I think that's what sets a lot of women apart from men, although men are awesome, that they help other women. But because Chinatown Ice Cream Factory has been around so long, almost 50 years, I had to think about which of the top struggles I want to speak about. Some people like the gang stories. Some people like the 9/11 stories. Some people like the Hurricane Sandy. But I chose the pandemic because it was the most current big issue that we had dealt with, and it was the last big issue that I had dealt with my father. It was extremely difficult because we stayed open every single day during the pandemic except for 2 days. And I told my father, I said, but we're not an essential business. But he said, we can be an essential business because my father's an entrepreneur. We're Chinese. We come actually from a merchant background, even from China. Our lineage is all entrepreneurs. So he said we could sell toilet paper, we could sell paper towels, we could sell whatever we could get from Costco because they're still open, to be an essential business. But I think that we're an essential business. We don't have sit down. And then I contacted, some of my friends that were in government, and they said, I think you're an essential business. So we just stayed open. We closed 2 days on the days that we weren't sure what was going on. But it was hard because people thought that Chinese people brought this flu. So there's a violence issue. So that's an issue. There's the issue of, are we gonna catch the virus? Because we're front facing. There's the issue of safety because they're attacking small businesses. And the last issue is that we have nobody to work. So it was the first time that me and my father actually worked together on the same shifts. That was another challenge. We always respected each other, but we never worked actually next to each other, not in 550 square feet, not since I was a certain age. I'm like, when I was 12, dynamic is different when you're 12. So my dad would give me a lot of criticism on certain things. But I told my dad, it's like when I drive, I'm like middle-aged. I'm an adult. But through all hard things, all those things said, very, very difficult. But you also see the most beautiful things working in a community. We had a lot of people sew face masks for us, people that we didn't even know in the community bring us face masks. Because I'm a New Yorker, I don't take food from strangers. Got a lot of food sent to us. Had a lot of our first responders check on us. I was studying for my LSAT during pandemic while working with my father. People checking up, making sure I'm studying, people checking up on my kids, helping to watch my kids while they're at home. So it was something. It was really beautiful. I was kind of jealous because a good portion of people were at home, but it was interesting to see what it was like outside. Eater touted us the beacon of hope for New York City because we were one of the only places that was open that long. So I was really proud of that.
I went there a lot of times during the
I
pandemic.
think a lot of us did.
I
I don't know if we all want to
definitely
admit
did.
it out loud, but
I feel like a struggle that I had was like opening my business and not necessarily like dealing with the landlord and all of that does have its own struggles, of course, and like schlepping the books and doing all of that, of course, is really hard. But in terms of like getting set up, getting the things you need, especially because I opened during the pandemic, so it was kind of confusing. Like I didn't know what kind of like licenses I need. I didn't know who to go to. Like I kind of just opened every day and was like, well, that day worked out, lock the door, hope tomorrow is good, and people couldn't come tomorrow. And sometimes people would come in, especially when they were doing all of these checks for COVID stuff. Like I remember somebody came in and asked to see like my bathroom cleaning sheet, but I was the only employee and I was the only person working there. And so I didn't have one. And I said, oh, it's just me. And he's like, you need to. So I'm like, so I need to print out this form every day, put that I cleaned it, and then I sign off on myself doing it every day. And I'm the only one who uses the bathroom. It's for employees only. And he was like, yeah. And he gave me a fine. And I was like, dude, what? Like, this seems like I'm busy. Like, this seems like a waste of my time. And so I was like, who are you? You know, like, this is weird. So there were some things that I didn't know that I still don't know. They still don't know. And sometimes I'm like, how do they like let me do this? Like, I don't know. Sometimes someone comes in, oh, I need to see like this license, or why isn't this on display? I'm like, there's no checkbook. You don't get in and get your crash course like we were talking about earlier on becoming a small business owner. Like, and I think part of that is the problem on like these online POS systems, Shopify, because they let you make money. They let you do that. They don't know that you don't know your EIN number by heart or your what DBA is different from this. They don't know. They don't care. So when it comes down to the end and you're like, I have to show you this form. Which license? He's like, you're a reseller. Okay, yeah. I'm like, what is a resale license? Do I have this? Like, I don't. So I feel like I was just in the dark, and I feel like I really didn't know who to go to for help. And then I also felt like, I opened during a time where there was a lot bigger issues going on than like me and my bookstore. So I felt in a business that was so centered around community and people coming in and that was in giving their books, and it was so like symbiotic. I did feel very in the dark and alone in that way. So I really encourage anyone who wants to start a business to ask someone who has one, like, what is a resale license and how do you get one if that's what you're doing?
I think that's actually incredibly helpful and leads to our next question. I think for so many women in these spaces, we're figuring it out as we go, right? We're ferocious in the fact that we won't give up, but in those dark times, we start thinking, somebody should be watching me, right? Like somebody else should be checking that I'm supposed to be doing this way. Were there any resources that New York City, that you found in the city, that you found in your communities that really helped you in those moments when you were like, I don't know that I should be allowed to do this?
I feel like the people that helped me the most, honestly, were just like people who came into my store who they would say, what's going on today? And I'd say, oh, this happened. And then it would just be organic and natural like that. And I felt, especially my business, I drive around and I pick up used books from people's apartments. Like the people, a doorman would be like, listen, I'll watch your car. You got 30 minutes, but they're coming. Like stuff like that. Other than that, I still don't really even know where to go.
Yeah.
Luckily, I met people today.
That's why we're doing this. That's why we're doing it. Anybody else? Anything else?
I would say that I went online and I signed up for every college around me if they had any workshops, and I would go take them. All right, but one of the programs that has helped me the most is that I've been privileged and lucky enough to be accepted at the 1,000 Small Business by Goldman Sachs. The day that I was accepted to that program, because I tried 2 years prior and was rejected, I cried. I went home. I was like, oh my God, they don't want me, you know, that kind of thing. But I went back and I had every requirement they needed, and I was accepted, and I danced all the way through home. And let me tell you, it has been one of the best programs I've ever participated in, and I recommend it to everyone.
I will say definitely during COVID, we closed for 3 months. We left, we came back, and community. There was one woman who said, listen, what do we have to do to make sure that you guys come back? And I said, oh, you sure? You want to know? So there was one particular woman who worked for The Gap, and it was their marketing, I don't know, director. And she put together for us a whole deck. She did research, she did focus groups for us. She created for us, you know, a deck that we use to this day in terms of, you know, how we, our branding. And she did it completely pro bono. She was really like, we had so many people from the community say, we need you to come back. What do we need? What do you need for us to support you? And that was just like, I almost felt like, because, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but COVID was a moment of truth in terms of, do we continue to forge ahead or do we just close shop? Because it was, you know, the thought of having to go through what it meant to, like, you know, surmount all that was just overwhelming. And so we were like, okay, if we're going to do this, you know, we're going to do it. And people just really supported us.
I'll give you a mixed answer because I didn't know if it was in the community or if it was a government agency, so I'll give you a little bit of both. I think a lot of our elected officials downtown were very helpful, bringing us PPE. I think our community in Chinatown is so strong. People say Chinatown's dying, and I hate hearing that because our community is so strong. It's kind of like Sesame Street. It's not anything you could put into words necessarily, but it's just a feeling that you have. It's the food that they bring that bring you comfort. I think it's just generational. It's the space that connects us. I like the SYEP program. I'm a big fan. We've participated in it many years, but I think it was very good during pandemic because we had to essentially rehire everybody because we didn't have any employees because everybody quit because they were scared to come to work, especially being of Asian descent. There was a big factor of getting ill during pandemic, but then there's also the safety issue because people, at this point, you could go on the train and people are scared if someone's gonna punch you in the face just because you're Asian. It's a big Asian hate time. So I think SYP was good because it helped us retrain staff while paying the staff and knowing that they have intentions of staying on. So that really helped to have that buffer. And also SYP also helps to take out a lot of the training aspects, like sexual harassment training. They have all that stuff already in place. So it took out a lot of extra stuff and steps for us.
That's great. That's incredibly helpful. And I think what you're hearing is that sometimes there are these not just city agency programs, but like Goldman Sachs, some of these incubator programs that it does take 1, 2, 5 attempts to get in sometimes, but it does really allow and share some very helpful information that would be hard to find in other places. So following that thought, what do you feel is the best business advice you've ever received?
Find something you love and do it as a hobby, not as a job. And the day that what I do becomes a job, I will change it. Simple.
It's good advice.
I'd say know where you want your end game to be, because when you back into something, you save yourself money, time, aggravation, and all of the things. I think sometimes when you're looking forward, you're not thinking about, what do you, for some people, maybe they're building something to be able to franchise it. Well, if you know that going into it, then you know how to approach it. A lot of times I tell makers this all the time, that you have to know where you want to land, and then you back your way into that. To me, that's the best usage of your time and your money.
Best business. Honestly, yeah, don't do it. If someone thinks you're crazy, it means you're onto something good. And if someone tells you no, that should be a sign to tell you yes. Even with I'm opening a shop to the store next door. I'm expanding. And when people, I'm opening another shop. Oh, where is it? Oh, it's right next door. Everyone's like, right next door? That's so weird. I'm like, good. That's how I know it's a good idea, because you're disagreeing. Enjoy your day at your job. Goodbye. So yeah, go for it. If you believe in it, someone else does.
100%.
It was a discussion me and my father had about the quote, "Don't do business with friends and family." I asked my father what he thought about that, because if you don't do business with your friends or your family, who can you trust? So I'm confused. So but the thing is, that saying's been around. It's a common business expression. So that's like something I do. I read short maxims and stuff, because I think there's a lot of wisdom there. So my father said that his interpretation of the maxim was that you have to treat friends and family like friends and family, but when you do business with them, you don't treat them like friends and family. So he gave an example. He says, when you get your paycheck and I get my paycheck, I don't want to hear what I should do with my paycheck, and I don't want to tell you what you should do with yours. If you flush it down the toilet, it's none of my business. But when we're family, I could give you advice like, I don't think that you should do that with your kids. Or you should do this with your kids, teach them Chinese. So I thought that was a good interpretation of it, because your friends and your family are the people that you trust the most, but you have to have a very clear line of how you're going to do it. And I had a very harmonious relationship with my father working with him for 3 decades. That's insane. And I work a lot with my friends in business, and friends. So.
No, those are great pieces of advice, and so everybody should be taking notes. You guys should be writing these down. I think one of the things that you guys have all touched on today is that you've relied so much on community, you've relied so much on people who walk into your businesses, who find value in your businesses. But in 2026, we hear constantly that social media is the way to go, that we have to be on social media. And I will also say, I'm a Harlem resident. I went to NiLu every day because it's just a joyful space to be in. And I was introduced to so many makers who I then found on social media who didn't have their own brick and mortars. How else has social media been helpful, hurtful, things that you've learned, things you would have done differently?
I think people are, just as well as they'll give you accolades, they will tear you down.
Yes.
So it really, you have to, it's something that you have to navigate. It's something that I feel like, from time to time I go in and I'll do a Google and I'll see, NiLu reviews, just to see what people are talking about. And it's funny because, usually you can tell the person that puts in a review that's like 5 paragraphs long, you're like, okay, this person already has an issue. So you're kind of like, there's no satisfying this person. So you kind of know what context to put them in. But it puts you on Front Street. It really does put you on Front Street. But I tell staff, always, you don't have to take anybody's abuse. My thing is always treat people how you want to be treated, and they're not always going to agree with you, but be, respectful and kind, but don't take no shit, So it can work for you and it can work, against you, but I feel like if you are a fair, authentic, and treat people with, a certain amount of respect and integrity, then, it is what it is. People will decide for themselves. I also think it's a necessary evil that you have to participate, because that's just, what the game requires. I mean, for most businesses, there are some businesses that are very few and far between that don't have to participate, but you're talking about probably decades of reputation, or word of mouth, is the best form of advertising, but not every business has that benefit of being able to thrive, under those circumstances.
My business is definitely, social media is a huge part of my business, not necessarily me doing social media. Before I opened my shop, I was the head of marketing at the McKittrick Hotel, Sleep No More, the Strand Bookstore. So I was on social media all day doing everything, all that kind of stuff. And when I opened my shop, I was very organic with my Instagram, and I would tell people when I was open and when I was closed, or when I was running late, or if we got a first edition of Charlotte's Web, or whatever was going on. And then people started to come into my shop, and it was really like user generated content of, I just traded books for pickles. This is what you do. You bring your stack of books. So I felt like that really took on a lot of the work for me in the social media department, and I stopped feeling the need to do it so much. But I would say, like, yes, it's important to have that, but just to know, like, once you start making that a place where you communicate with your customers, if you're using Instagram messages to answer people, to do business with people, that's where they're going to come and find you. So it's, you kind of have to decide, is that something I'm going to do now, or am I going to set that up where that if you want to have a question for me, call me or email me or come into the store? Because I felt almost like enslaved to the social media aspect of my business in the beginning, and I hated it. I resented it. I didn't want to go. And then I started saying, oh, I have to be on it. Oh, I'm just checking my Instagram for work. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. So after the holidays, I always take a few months off of it, and I'm like, come in. If you want to come in, if you want to have a question, call me. Come see me. That's where I'll be. Because your customers will rely on those kinds of communication that you set up.
I'm going to say that we use social media to educate the public, the small sector, right? The small business. For example, someone receives a violation, let's say from the fire department, and some people think it's going to go away if you put it in a drawer. It's not going to go away.
Me.
But what we do is that
That's true. That's real.
what we do is that then we design something to distribute it and say, if you receive a violation, you can't, the only thing that you can not do is ignore it. And that will resonate with someone, and they'll call us. It depends how you use the social media, because when you help others, right, you empower them. And when you empower someone, it creates a curiosity. And that translates for us into more business and trust. Because I said something that meant something to you, and therefore you feel closer to me. Right? Makes sense?
Yeah.
We definitely have to engage in social media, but I think there's a clear difference between engaging in social media for us and doing, because I have a job to do. And I also feel like, especially in food industry, people like hype up the space or they hype up the food too much, and it's just based on pictures, but we want people to also have like a normal experience, like where people just like our business, and it's not because we're a fad. A lot of things on Instagram are fads. Like you see a lot of people, and we cater to that as well. You see somebody that buys 3 scoops of ice cream but weighs like 85 pounds, and say, I want this because I saw on Instagram. They take 2 bites and then they throw it out. So they just wanted the picture. It's not that it wasn't delicious, but that's really not how we believe our business, and I don't want my business to be that. I know there's some businesses that are just based off that. They could just be a craze or whatnot. But for me, every day I wake up and I want to continue the legacy of the community and what my father had built. So we engage in social media, but we're not a fad. So some days it's a good day. Some days like it's a celebrity that will put us in their stories, and then I'll be like, oh, that's awesome. They know I'm alive. Or there's some days where someone writes something negative, which I just usually try to ignore, because if the algorithm is usually that everyone is saying great things and then one person says a bad thing, I just it's New York City. There's crazy people all the time. So I think we're awesome, and most people think we're awesome. So I'm just gonna keep being awesome.
That was fantastic. So some of the words that have popped out to me today, right? Community, trust, family. These are things that are oftentimes not associated with running like a successful small business. And I think so often, especially women-owned small businesses, people think that those soft words are gonna make you too soft to be successful. How do you define leadership as women running small businesses, but running it with your hearts, running it with community in mind, running it with care in mind?
Being of service and empowering others. To me, there's no greater thing. Simple.
Yeah, I feel so happy not only to be in business as a woman when people come in and buy a book that they like, but also to give people jobs that they really like. And as someone who's worked for a lot of people, a lot of men, I feel like and I've had all kinds of experiences. My best leader, my favorite times and I feel like my most impactful times being a leader as a woman in business is actually as an employer and as a boss, and taking those relationships really seriously, because it's how someone spends their time and how somebody makes their living and how somebody experiences New York. Maybe they're not a New Yorker, and this is how they're going to get to be introduced to the city. And I feel like that's a really important and oftentimes overlooked opportunity to be a leader that women definitely, in my experience, excel at and take more care of.
I think when people define leadership as a whole, the things that women define being a leader is not always the same. Like, it's just a totally separate category. Like, it has to be women. It's not like leadership as a whole. Like, if a man said that, they would be like, I don't know. That doesn't sound like that great. So my Chinese name is, it's complicated. It's like poetic. So I asked my grandma what it actually means. And she said something like, you love everyone and everyone loves you back. So it's like a community love. But my sister's name is worth more than gold. And I was like, what? Okay. But I think that for leadership, I think that it's like being full with your heart, like just following your heart and being with your heart and being who you are and true to who you are. And that will lead you to the right place. And that sounds a little hokey, but in the ice cream industry, for example, everyone says, well, did you see him? He opened so many shops. Why don't you be like him? And I'll say, because I'm not him, right? Why don't you do rolled ice cream? Why don't you do mix-ins? Why don't you do soft ice cream? Because that's not what we do. So just be yourself. Be with your heart. And that sounds really cheesy, and all those businesses are out.
Yeah, rolled ice cream, not a thing anymore. 100%.
For me, when I think about leadership, I never think of myself as necessarily a leader. I come from a very large family. I'm one of 9. And so I take more so that experience in business with me. And by that, I may lead, my mantra is to thy own self be true. So I always feel that whenever I hire somebody, I'm in a role of leadership, I'm always trying to be just authentic to who I am, trying to be honest with, I tell, folks that have worked with me, listen, I don't know anything. I don't know everything. So this is my weakness. You seem to be very good at that. So why don't, recognizing what your weaknesses are and what you're really good at. So I find that, I'm always about, I'm not willing to ask you to do something that I myself am not prepared to do. It's always just about being honest and authentic and being fair. I'm a big believer in karma. And I just try to lead and direct in that same type of way. And sometimes it's not, it may be sometimes curt or candid in a way that people feel is abrasive, but it is always authentic and it's always real. So that's just how I try to lead.
Thank you, guys. So we wanted to save time for some audience members to have an opportunity to ask questions as well, if anybody has one. People can just call them. Okay.
I'm going to start. I feel like, just earlier this week, that was me. And a lot of now, 25 years being an entrepreneur and feeling that for what I have given it and what I have gotten is not a balanced, experience. And so I'm at the point of my life where I'm going to live my life. If I'm going to open up the store late, then so be it. Like I'm putting me first. And having been an entrepreneur and being a mother, the last 20 years, it's like been drinking out of a fire hose, and I'm not doing that anymore. And you have to start with yourself. It has to start with you, because otherwise people will suck the life out of you. And so you have to put, I'm just not about that life. I just do not do it. I just don't do it.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. My grandmother used to say sometimes you have to know when to put down a penny and put down $1 and pick up a penny. And I actually feel like that's true. So if it's like opening your store late, not opening, taking a break, turning your phone off, and also super simply just asking for help. Like there was so long that I wouldn't ask someone who worked at my shop to take care of something for me when like they were so happy to do it and probably better at it than I was, and little tasks that I believed only I could do or only I could do a certain way, or someone didn't want to do that. When I finally just asked somebody for help, it got done probably better, faster, and it gave somebody a purpose in their job that moved forward.
Other questions? That's great. A day of rest is huge, I will always say. Just one day. You give yourself off a Tuesday that you're not supposed to, it'll keep you going for an extra month or so. Jackie, did you want to add?
I just wanted to add that the reason why we get burnt out is because we try to do it all. Sometimes you take the time off for you, or you hire someone. That's what I do now. Depending on the project, then I'll hire a consultant. It'll probably cost me a couple of $100, but you know what? My peace of mind and my health, I found the hard way that is worth much more.
Starting a business. So what is in facing all these? Okay,
Every time I think of working for someone else, it puts me right back in the cage.
we've all had one bad work experience.
For me, I try to, in any decision that I make, I try to think about what is the worst case scenario. And if I have a viable, out for that, then it makes me more comfortable forging forward.
If you want to do it, try it. The biggest, worst thing is that you don't try it and you spend your whole life thinking, I wish I opened that pickle bookstore. Now I say pickle 5,000 times a day, and I'm like, what is my life? But it would have been a regret if I didn't do it.
I agree with her. I think like regret, you don't want to live with regret. I mean, I hear so many people, I feel like we're only middle-aged. Why do people have so many regrets? Like, I think I feel overall every day, I feel I lived pretty full. And I think you want to try to I tell my children that if you want to do something, just try it. What's the worst that's going to happen?
I think we have time for one final question. Yeah, go.
How has, thanks for being here, a lot of great information. How has AI helped?
So I think for us personally in the food industry, I was kind of shying away from it, but I'm not. I like to listen to people. So we have another location in the Essex Market, and our location in the Essex Market, just like everyone else's stall, is more or less like 100 square feet or so. So I see the implementation of all these kiosks, and I asked my neighbor, I'm like, why would you put a kiosk? You have 100 square feet, you have one employee. Makes no sense for me. Like, talk to the person. And he told me, which I agree, that he says that studies show that people don't want to talk to people. Customers don't want to talk to people. I get it the other way around because a lot of our staff is very young and pandemic babies kind of, like they grew up in a critical time during the pandemic, so they have some anxiety speaking with the customer. I just thought it was one way. But when he said that to me, I realized that there's a huge demographic that also doesn't want to speak to the person ordering it. They get anxiety. But for me, it's the opposite. Like, I don't take the Long Island Railroad, right? But I'm scared when I have to take the Long Island Railroad because there's a kiosk. Because I'm like, are people looking at me like I'm a tourist? Are they rushing me? But all studies show that people order more and spend more on the kiosk, and people feel more comfortable on the kiosk. But I feel sad because, that's like gonna get rid of jobs, and that's, like people. Like, talk to people. But that's life.
I think that's a very good point. I think what's interesting is sometimes we have ideas about what we think things should be. And then there's the audience that we're talking to. It's the people that we're talking to. And sometimes you have to meet people where they are and understand that sometimes your customers might not see it the same way that you do, which is very challenging, I think, because I think we all get married to the idea of what we want to do. Brad, go ahead.
I have a question, and thank you. This has been so interesting and inspiring. I have two young daughters, age 18. One is currently selling Girl Scout cookies.
She is. She's very good at it.
It's the last weekend of cookie sales. And the 15-year-old loves to sell Taylor Swift-style bracelets in Washington Square Park. So maybe there's some entrepreneurship in their future. But, in terms of our office at the Manhattan Borough President team, what can we offer entrepreneurs who are confused or sometimes don't have the right answers or looking for assistance from government or permitting or all of the hoops that you have to jump through just to get your business open?
I think, you said it earlier about social media. It's like, I can't be doing this because I have a job. I'm doing all these other things. So sometimes I put my fire violations in the drawer because I'm ringing up books, bringing stuff from the basement, taking inventory, driving to some lady's house, packing up her books. Like, I'm doing a lot of things. And so I think sometimes it could be so helpful to have somebody almost check in with me, and especially if there's a change, if there's an update, even if it's like, hey, minimum wage went up, like, there's no alert on that for me anywhere, and I want to make sure that I'm keeping up with all of those kinds of things. And so I don't know if it's a bulletin, a phone call, someone coming by, but someone to let me know, like, what's up this month, what's new, what laws have changed, what's the sick accruing hour policy, all those kinds of things. In one place delivered to me, so I don't have to not be selling books to find it.
I am going to suggest something, and it's that these type of forums help, really, because I know that you're restrictive. Your office is restrictive with a lot of things. You have the Department of Buildings, you have the Department of Health. That's not what you do. That's not, and let's be real, right? But these type of forums can, by having the discussion, someone in the audience can say, oh my God, I have a resource now. Or, oh my God, I went through that and this is the solution. These type of discussions need to happen more often. That's what I would suggest.
I was part of, in the old administration, I was part of a coalition of entrepreneurs or business owners, and they were really trying to reach out to the different boroughs and business owners. And so I will say, to be fair, that I know that there has been effort that is put forth to reaching out to small businesses. I think that, first of all, messaging is probably the most difficult job that you guys have, because as business owners, we feel that you guys are just against us at every stance. You're trying to give us tickets. You're not really, a team player. So I think that the messaging, first and foremost, that needs to be consistent, and utilizing the social media as much as you can, making it more interactive. I know that there was a van or a mobile that would go from community to kind of inform business owners about different things. I find that there needs to be a continuous consistency of that, about the messaging that we're here to help. We're not here to, hinder what you're trying to do, but really support you. And it's about information. A lot of times, a lot of programs are available, but we just don't know about it. Part of the onus is, I think, on us to have to seek it, but there's a consistency in messaging that needs to go out in social media, utilizing the local business library branches that are open, making known that maybe on the first Friday of every month, you can go to your public library, and there's going to be, some advocacy or some, mobile there that can help small businesses, inform them of what they need to do. But I mean, definitely, I feel for you guys, because, it's first about letting, businesses know we're on your side. We want to support you.
I was just processing. I have kids, same ages as your kids, daughters. So my brain works a little slower sometimes at this time of the day. So I think Manhattan is a very big borough, and it's very unique. And each neighborhood is unique. And I think the businesses are what make it unique. The long-standing businesses, not the chain businesses. We don't need another Dunkin' Donuts, even though Dunkin' Donuts are still kind of small businesses because they're franchised and whatnot. And I know they have a lot of struggles, but I'm just saying businesses that essentially make up the character of our communities. I think there needs to be outreach to support the longevity of those businesses. I'll give you an example, so you could quote me because you're, expediter. What local law is it that with the gates?
58.
58. Okay. So local law. No, I don't know. I think it's in the 40s, but you could be right. So the local law says that, and we knew this law was coming, that they can't implement new gates with a certain percentage that's visible and whatnot and blah blah blah. And they said that they're gonna start fining starting July, early July. And to me, I'm like, how are you gonna implement this? Because there's no way that you can implement this, because this whole community has set gates. So, and the law clearly states that it doesn't say that if your gate is grandfathered in or whatnot. So our Chinatown bid went to the meeting to clarify this. So at this point, it seems that if you already have a gate, that you're okay, but it's not clear. So we have this clarification. So for me, because I contacted the gate company, I always think it's very weird because I'm a business person. And I'm like, oh, can I make an appointment to get a new gate? And they're like, yeah, sure. And if it's so easy to get an appointment, like if we're all rushing, I don't think that this law could be like real or implemented. But also, I think it's arbitrary, because it's not like we're creating. I understand what they're trying to do with the new gate law going forward. But my gate is also artistic. It's not like an eyesore. It was done by a famous graffiti artist. A lot of our gates in Chinatown were painted by neighborhood kids. It's such a beautiful part of our community. I think it needs to be a case-by-case basis for long-standing businesses. I mean, we're not these big companies that have their own compliance departments, that have their own this and that. We're small businesses. I'm 550 square feet. It's very different. So I think you have to case by case for us.
Can I just add one more thing to that point? One of the things that really upsets me is that a lot of times there are programs that are offered, but by definition, the definition of small business does not meet. It's not realistic. If my business had 35 employees and we had sales of 5 million, I wouldn't be like, I wouldn't be needing your help. There's this place where there is no help. There's like micro small businesses that need to be identified, and it really, you can't grow to be that type of business unless you have support, when you're not making $5 million, so creating programs that are realistic, not built to fail, but really meeting entrepreneurs or business owners where they are throughout the course of the trajectory of becoming big empires.
Well, we have one final question. Yeah.
I can tell you from my perspective, and people are just taking the fines. Because if you spend, let's say, $5,000 on replacing a gate, that there's probably nothing. In general, to do the work, or
You're saying to start your business. Like,
oh, to
see,
start a business. SBA will be the agency to go to, SBA. But I wouldn't advise you to start a business with no cash of your own. Yes. Yeah. When I needed, yeah, I took a loan from SBA. Simple. I needed the money, and that's what I did, and I paid.
When I started my business, we were looking to buy a home and we were getting priced out, so we used our savings to start our own business. I will say that was 25 years ago, but it's not set up the way, you can't start a business the way that you used to start a business, 10 years ago. You have to have resources. The SBA is out there, but the money's not cheap, and you got to have, you have to meet, that's just the reality. I think you have to be more organic, and you have to be more outside of the box. If you're thinking about doing a business, you have to take investors on. The onus is on you, because it's not until you prove, concept of theory, that you're going to be eligible to get any kind of money. There's grant money out there, but everybody's, scourging for it. I would suggest that anybody, if you're going to start a business, you have got to have your own money to invest in it. And that's why you have to believe in what you do. It takes money to make money, and you just can't do it the way that you used to do it in this town. That's just facts.
Yeah.
And I wish I had a better story to tell you, but that's just how it is.
yeah, I think that what we're hearing today is that, like, this is a risk, right? Being a small business owner is a risk, and it's a calculated risk. I think everybody in this room understands that, like, you've got to decide for yourself what you're willing to take on, what's safe for your family, safe for your health, safe for your stress, and find partners that I think are helpful. It's incredibly hard to start from the bottom in Manhattan and to build it up on your own. But there are SBA loans, there are grants, and also finding that community that will support you as you work your way through. I think that's what we've heard today. So I wanna save time at the end so that everybody can go upstairs, get some food, meet each other. When you were coming in, we asked you to push pin your business cards so that you can go through. When you're leaving, take a picture of everybody's cards. We want this to continue to be conversation, support, mentorship, and I think we're really dedicated to being a convener of that. So I want to thank everybody today, and I think we're going to bring Brad back up and do a little presentation. Yeah. You guys stay on stage. So today we're just really honored. One of the things we get to do in the Manhattan Borough President's Office is to present you all with proclamations today as small business owners in Manhattan who are leading the way for others. So congratulations.
Should we come forward?
Yeah, move it over here. This is good. I'm going to push this back.
And for everyone else, please feel free to make your way upstairs. Just go right up the stairs you came through, and when you get up there, head to your left, and you'll follow the smell of food. You'll find it. Did you guys see them already? Thank you, everybody. Congratulations again. Thank you.